Good morning, Kitsus! Welcome back to the Enchanted Forest. Care for a stroll? Need a drink? We have coffee. Today we're going to be talking about Marvel. Though I should clarify I don't actually know much between Marvel and DC. I actually didn't get a chance to watch a lot of that when I was younger, so I'm starting to explore it now. Recently, Spider-Man was the big thing, especially with the Spider-Verse movie being the forefront. I can't say I know a lot about Spider-Man other than Spider Bite makes superhuman. And to top that, I've only recently begun to watch all of the other Spider movies. Though, if I'm to be honest, the character designs, the world building, the power scaling, it's all really cool. The thought process that had to have gone into this, it's even evident in the new Spider-Verse movie, with just how they handle the colors, the animation. Like, oh goodness. I actually have to say a spoiler warning for basically this whole video if you haven't seen the new Spider-Verse, as that does influence what I'm going to be talking about and what I'm going to be drawing in today's video. So do consider this your warning. This is your last chance to turn back now. We'll be able to take another stroll in the future, I promise. So, what actually ended up getting my attention immediately when the movie started had to be the colors we see with Gwen's universe. It's so vibrant, and watching the colors explode and paint their way across the screen, it was just fascinating. Only for us to then meet Miguel O'Hara, which I'm probably not pronouncing it correctly, I hope I am, otherwise known as Spider-Man 2099. I know he wasn't bit per se, and when I did a bit of research between the old style Miguel and our current Miguel, they're pretty different, it seems like. But that can be a discussion for another time. The point is that when Miguel first appears on screen, he's snarky, he's serious, he's trying to do his job. He clearly just wants to get things done and over with. And we, near the end of the fight, it's like we pan to his mask fluttering back below his mouth via the technology of his suit, and it reveals long fangs as he nearly bites into the throat of this antagonist, this minor playing antagonist. Which, by the way, this antagonist, this bird guy, I couldn't hear his name, unfortunately. The fact that he was made to look like paper, and the surrounding areas around him, and his weaponry, the clashing style of him versus the universe he was in to showcase that it was a multiversal concept that we're dealing with, that was fantastic. But no, on point, the art point, the colors, the dark silhouette of Miguel as he's about to sink his fangs into someone, it gave me actual chills. Which, with everyone making Spidersonas, this only added to the curiosity of making one myself. I had already been considering it, but I really, really wanted to give it a shot myself. So, as far as design choices go for Spider-Man, here are some of the core features I've learned just by looking about, looking at different Spidersonas, and looking at Spider-Man in general. So here are the top 3 things that I know. 1, the spider suit has to be of a sleek design. It's crucial for any spider person so that they can be acrobatic, they can leap about, they can use their webbing, and they can get where they need to go fast without being caught on anything. 2, the face is never shown. Or it's not supposed to be? I'm still a touch confused on that one. But the lower half of the face can be seen, as well as the hair. But I haven't seen it where both the hair and the lower half of the face are seen at the same time. So that itself is a rule in and of itself. Next, for 3, is that red seems to be the ongoing theme, but it's not necessarily necessary for the predominant color to be red. But it does come across that a singular color needs to be the focus, with some web motif somewhere alongside a spider insignia. Those are the main points that I've noticed. There have to be web motifs and there have to be a spider insignia somewhere. And that's all I really have. Spider people also seem to have their own variety on powers, which is super cool. It's interesting because there are so many different spiders in the world that you could have a variety of abilities. Sorry, arachnophobes, I know that's not what you want to hear. So let's go ahead and pop over to the art section of what we will be doing. The spider that I actually ended up basing my character off of is actually the pink of Arachne, which I'll show right here. It's actually a type of jumping spider. It's a jumping spider is usually black with a little white dot on its back. I couldn't find a picture, unfortunately, in my short time frame, but before I even watched the movie, I'm not gonna lie, I wanted my Sona to have fangs. Venomous fangs that paralyze the target, because jumping spiders have a special place for me and Mori, and they typically have the brilliant green fangs and everything else. So, Miguel O'Hara resemblance, anyone? I debated keeping this ability after seeing that 2099 had that same ability, but in the end I decided to keep it since I wanted that as a design aspect as well. Other abilities that I could think of, since I've never made a superhero type character or Sona before, was similar to the spider itself. Jumping spiders can fall from great heights, basically nothing. I've seen one drop from the ceiling, pop onto the ground, and then pop back up like nothing happened. So I decided to give her way more endurance than even a normal spider person, alongside the ability to leap from any position her body's contorted into. Think of it like being able to leap in great bounds, just launching yourself off of things like a ricocheting bullet. And that's what you have. You have a freight train in a small 5-foot body. Something else is I don't think she would rely on her webs very much, and just because I can, because this is just supposed to be for fun, I decided that her web fluid would sometimes appear bioluminescent, just like her suit. I struggled with the spider colors a lot. Despite wanting to mimic the pink of Arachne, I decided that the colors would shift, sometimes appearing more red or pink depending on the lighting. Though the white that you see right here would always be present on her suit once we got to that point. So the thing is, even though the colors would appear to shift, sometimes appearing more red or pink depending on the lighting, in complete darkness, what she ended up doing was that there's a faint glow about her. It caused her problems numerous times, though she won't ever admit to it, because it's part of her background that we'll get to in a moment. I decided that because she's supposed to be a Sona, she would be a streamer like myself. She was insanely curious about a pink jumping spider and had a lot of spiders herself as pets. I wanted her to be this traveling streamer who would go to all the cons, sell all the art, because those are goals that I have for myself. So she would have all of these pet spiders, and she would have spiders that would show up on her streams in a spider cam. She really wanted the pink one that she had just found by chance because, I mean, it's pink. It would fit with her whole brand and theme. But lo and behold, it ended up being a medical experiment. One of 13, actually. Her spider, guess, was lucky number 13, just because I like the aspect of it. However, despite how docile a jumping spider is, it did inevitably bite her. It had gotten out of the containers that she'd made for it in the middle of the night, and she unfortunately rolled onto it in her sleep, unfortunately killing the spider as well. For days, her mouth ached and her pupils in her eyes became a little bit faded. Her overall irises became shiny and eye-catching. This is supposed to be a callback to how wide and cute the black eyes of a jumping spider can be. Like, let me pull up the spider again. You can see how wide and like shiny they are. It's actually really cute. So I wanted that to be like a callback. You can actually see in the sketch that for the spider suits, I have it where the irises are temporarily black with a bit of eye shine. I don't actually end up keeping that. So, what she ended up learning is that she had grown fangs, and she began to wear a face mask, unwilling to show them to her community out of fear of rejection. Because she also travels, this did influence the way she was able to help the people of the world, eventually getting the nickname known as the traveling spider. She was never in one location, so she was never overly relied on either. She was eventually pinned down by a press unit, and they asked her her name. And unable to think of one, she simply just blurted out arachnophobia, and she ended up getting the moniker Arachne as a shorter version, which it embarrasses her to this day that she couldn't think of anything else, anything that has any more originality. It's like it bugs her to this day, and the fact that it gets shortened to the nickname Arachne, she was like a huge, I'd say anime slash manga gamer nerd, because what streamer isn't, right? So all she can think of is that she's sharing the same name as Arachne from Soul Eater, and it haunts her every day. As for her canon event, well, that ends up not being a blood relative at all. Like, I know that for most people, it ends up being an Uncle Ben or a really close friend. And I decided that's the route I wanted to go with here. I wanted it to be one of her closest friends and moderators for her career. Because, as you know, if you're able to travel around a lot, you can make really close friends with people. So, what ends up happening is because whenever you stream, your moderators sometimes figure out how you work and how you tick, sometimes better than you yourself. And upon finding out that she was Arachne and not knowing her capabilities, because she was still new, she was still figuring things out, still kind of getting her ass handed to her, there wasn't like there wasn't a lot of confidence that was inspired, honestly. So he ends up like I say he, but it could be they. They end up jumping in between her and a hit that was meant for her before she knew about how durable that her body was. And they ended up passing away from the injury. She blames herself every single day that if they just hadn't known who she was, then they never would have jumped in between her and that hit. And if they had never done that, they would still be alive. So, as a result, Arachne resolved to never let anyone know her secret until she literally ran into Spider-Man 2099 and was formally invited to the Spider Society, which was a complete shock to Arachne because it's just like she thought she was the only one like her, despite knowing that logically if you could just get bit by any kind of spider and get these abilities. And there are tons of different variations in human mutants and people who just run around in suits. So it she thought she was the only one to herself, but knew that it also wasn't impossible either. What ended up being the shock to her was finding out that there was a whole multiverse going on, and that because of her skills and because of her abilities, she was invited to be a part of this society of people who were dedicated to protecting the universe, every universe, making sure everything that needed to happen happened. Because if it didn't, there would be a universal collapse. And that destroyed her. So, of course, she ended up agreeing to become a part of the Spider Society. And I can't say for sure which spider people she would be close to. Uh, by logic, you would assume that she might be close to Miguel because they share a similar spider trait. But I actually don't know. I don't know what I have planned for her, if I plan to go any further with her, if I'm going to be completely honest. She might talk to Miguel every now and then, but there are other spider people of a dozen varieties. So obviously there has to be somebody else who has a similar ability, right? So it ends up being a struggle for her later when the events that pan out in the movie just pan out the way they do. I don't know if I would want her to straight up abandon the society after seeing what happens, but at the same time, like, she doesn't agree with what happens either, and it's extremely problematic for her morals because all she wanted was to keep everybody safe. But by going and the events of the movie happening the way that they did, she didn't agree. Um, Something that I consider adding into her story is that if you happen to watch me stream, then you know that I have a male PNG. I'll actually pop it up right here for a quick reference, actually. And I decided that I would go ahead and give her either an older brother or a twin brother, and I'm debating if I want to give him an angsty ending or if I wanted to have him be in contact with a symbiote or a symbiote. I don't know for sure if I'm pronouncing it correctly. Um, they don't, I would imagine they don't interact with each other too much since she travels a lot, but I imagine he still tries to be involved. So I might make a video about him in the future? Question mark? I'm not sure. Though I might because it might be pretty fun actually. Um, Something else that is interesting about her design is I gave her that fluff, right? I wanted her to have that fluff because I'm going to go ahead and pop up the spider image again. Is you can see all the little hairs on the spider. So I wanted it to be like fluff, and I imagine that she gets colder easier because you know that spiders actually can't tolerate the cold. So that is definitely a personal headcanon, I guess would be canon since I created her. She cannot tolerate the cold, so she doesn't travel in cold climates a lot. Um, Something else that I considered is, as you can see with the design, I wasn't sure where to put her spider webbing motif. And I'm sorry that I'm like rambling a little bit about the design. It's just like I really like how she turned out. Is I decided to have that in tears, like parts of like an underscore underneath her suit. Like imagine it being like a mesh armor underneath the suit that was set in a web pattern. And it has another thing underneath it so it's not like actively damaging her skin. I just thought it was a really nice idea, and it eventually got torn, so she just reworked it to work all the same way. Here you can actually see where I'm trying to do the shiny eye thing. So, um, it's kind of hard because it ends up looking a little more watery and like sparkly. I think I ended up hitting the mark, but it took me a few tries, I'm not gonna lie. But that said, I think that's really all that I have about Arachne so far. Like, I don't. I feel like I've talked about as much as I've gotten of her just because I only had so long to think of something. So, that said, this is Arachne. I hope that you ended up liking me gushing and rambling on and on about her. She took me a few tries to figure out, and I might work with her more again in the future just because I really, really do like her design. Let's go ahead and pop up her full image real quick as we wrap up. Because you can see where I'm getting the background in. The pink really stands out against the against the red. Oh goodness. But let's go ahead and return back to our thing. Oh, I'm still in Wacom mode, and you can hear the kitty meowing in the background. I'm so sorry. That said, I hope you enjoyed your stroll with me today, Kitsus. Just set your drink aside when you're done, and I'll see it's taken care of. Be sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye, Kitsus!